Round like a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind.
Visit StogieGeeks.com/Debonaire for a list of retailers who carry Debonaire cigars. Buy some today and get a little more Debonaire. I have to say, Will, one of my favorite pairings is a dirty
Duran
martini
Premium.
with cigars. Just the saltiness component goes so well. This martini's got a really good saltiness component to it.
I like that saltiness component with a cigar.
Oh, it's awesome. So
Yeah.
we didn't take a break there. Those watching the live stream, we're actually streaming on our backup server, as I mentioned earlier, and because it's in a different room from production, there's no opportunity to take a break. So
we're going right through.
we're right in it. We're in Debonair Ideal right now, Will. And it's funny. I actually had a thought on a Debonair Ideal, and I think we should do it next week. And just to tease next week, I've got this segment in my mind, Will, and I was looking for the right venue for it amongst all of our shows. Those that listen, we have a network of shows in computer security. And of course, we have networks and shows in cigars. And each one kind of affords us the luxury to branch out like a little bit in each area. So in the security one, like we branch out into little technology and other like tech nerdiness. And in the cigar one, we branch out into spirits and other kind of things like that. But I got to thinking about like my everyday carry. And you might be thinking firearms, and while cigars and firearms certainly go hand in hand, I was thinking more like the things you carry with you every day. And it's interesting how when you're a cigar smoker, those things kind of relate to each other. So, and it kind of speaks to my nerdiness too, right? Like I've selected a wallet that is good for my everyday carrying purposes. I've got a lighter and cutter combo that I carry with me as every day. A pocket knife, and I don't know, they'll just kind of like when you are a cigar smoker, I think you got to have one or two extra things in your pocket. So being smart about what you carry with you every day certainly relates to the cigar smoker, Will. So I'd really like to run that as a Debonair Ideal coming up in the future.
That would be a really good one, actually, because I have a lot to say.
I spent a lot of time choosing, like at this point in my life, I've spent way too much time thinking about and choosing like what I carry in my pockets every day. And I think I've got a pretty good combination now, and I want to share that with the listeners. And the security, wasn't close enough to the security. Maybe I could do both and relate it more to technology, but certainly in cigars, stay tuned for what is specifically like what I like to carry as a lighter and cutter. And then some of the ways I've kind of slimmed down on the other things that I carry so that I can keep a lighter and cutter in my pocket comfortably. So we'll do that next time. I wanted to tease that segment, Will, so people tune in next week.
That's good. That's a really. I have a lot to say on that because I tend to be the person. I got to always have everything with me.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
And then like you can't carry like a 72-hour rucksack with you all the time. So you got to make some calculated decisions. And it kind of, this is a good lead into that when we talk about planning a cigar road trip. I'm assuming you're talking about in the car.
Well, yeah, in the car, but let me kind of couch what I mean by road trip. I'm not talking about, hey, I'm going to grandma's house and I'm going to smoke cigars in the car. This is actually getting a group of guys and going out of town to smoke cigars in a different town, which it's something we actually was talking about. We haven't done in a while with the group down here. I've done it a lot.
I know there's another great podcast. What's it called?
The Blowing Smoke.
Blowing Smoke.
Yeah.
Well, who's the guy? I like him. I don't know him.
Rob Hennig. I don't know him.
I don't know him personally, but I've listened to his show and I feel like I know him, and he's a nice guy. Like I feel like he's one of my friends.
I don't know if the show's still on. I mean, it's a good question.
Yeah, I haven't heard it in a. I gotta add that back and see if they've been doing shows.
Yeah, I haven't seen it come up in a while. Yeah,
it's one of those shows that I think leans more towards like other topics outside of cigars, which is fine, and they do a lot of cigar topics as well. But it was
unique. They have a real unique format.
They do, yeah, and that's what I liked about it. But they would talk about doing this like road trip herf, right, where they rent a bus. And then the logistics behind, like, how do you find a bus company to rent you a bus that you're going to smoke cigars in? And he was able to do that, which I give him props for. Like, I wouldn't want to be presented with that problem. And we've talked about doing a similar thing because we're like, that sounds like a ridiculous amount of fun. And it's in Pennsylvania. Like, maybe we should do one closer to home in either Will or myself's, like, home state. So we kind of do the same thing. And props to Rob, man. Like, we could never pull it off up to this point. Maybe someday, but now we're like, that's Rob did a great job.
He did. He really did. Yeah, but what we used to do is like a bunch of us would say, hey, let's go down to Atlanta and hit a few. Atlanta's the big city near Charlotte, and let's hit a few cigar shops down there. Or let's go to Asheville, where we hit some cigar shops, or Chattanooga, or the beach. So some things like that. And we were talking about, we haven't done one of those in a while, and it's something we're starting to talk about doing again.
Right, but problem number one is you got to be in a car that you can smoke in.
Yeah, so
I feel like you can't do one of these trips, Will, where you're like, you can't smoke in my car. Like, because if everyone's going to all these shops and smoking, your car's going to smell like cigars just from residual anyway. Everyone's going to stink getting in and out of the car. So you got to allow for smoking in the car, right?
Right, and if you get a minivan, you get 6 guys in the car, and they charge you $250. I know I'm not trying. It's about $40 extra a person. If you're going on a 4 or 5 hour car ride, it's worth it, right?
I see what you're saying. So you just pay the fee.
You pay the fee. We used to go in one of us would always take a smoking vehicle down there if it was just a group.
Yeah.
But we did a road trip to a place called Anderson, South Carolina, which is where Clemson is, which used to have one of the best. They had one of the best cigar bars, probably in the Carolinas. And we go there to watch some of the big bowl games and college games.
Yeah.
So we used to get a rental for that one, and we would just basically pay the fee. I mean, it was just we pay the fee, eat it that way. So that was probably my
right, because they're not saying you can't smoke. They're just saying if you smoke, you got to pay a fee.
You got to pay a fee. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You gotta plan these trips carefully. You have to look first of all. You just don't just decide in the car where you're gonna go.
No, yeah. Like I've always wanted to do one in Rhode Island, and I have in my head like where I would go to visit all the shops.
Right. But if you're taking a cigar road trip and you're going 240 miles to Atlanta, you want to go to a store where you don't really go to. I'm not trying to knock any brands. You don't want to go to a store where you're going to find
the same stuff. Yeah.
Same stuff. So what you want to try to look and see, are there some, and we talked about regionalization of brands a lot. There's even regionalization within the Southeast, for example, which I'm using as my example. So you want to kind of scope out, make some phone calls, find out what the inventories are of these cigars. And it doesn't hurt to kind of, if there's an event, that's a good reason to maybe hit the event as the main event, so to speak, where I remember me and my buddy Stace, we would go down to Atlanta, and we would do it when like Nestor Miranda was in Atlanta. So we would do that, but we'd hit a couple of other shops along the way and then get to the Nestor Miranda event in the evening, So, I would say but plan that part out real carefully in terms of that. Because the worst you could do is you could go to a cigar shop and it's just going to be the same stuff. And then, maybe it's cool if you want to smoke in another lounge, but I just think I want to smoke other stuff is what I'm kind of getting.
No, I agree.
Yeah. You want to have, you always want to have butane with you. Even because, again, you're going to be in the car. Usually a good place will fill up your lighter with butane, but take the butane. I mean, it just, it makes life a lot easier there as well.
I'm finding a big difference along those lines, Will, between different butanes.
Les talked about that from Calibri.
Yeah, and you know what? Les was on to something there.
Les was totally onto something with that. You got to get this high. I just got a DuPont lighter. and you only use DuPont, and I'm not messing around. If they say use DuPont butane, I'm going to use it.
Well, yeah, the lighter that costs you $800.
Yeah, it's not a cheap lighter, but it's because of my experience with some of these lighters that I said, hey, what the hell? I'm just gonna rather than invest, I don't want to invest in another lighter at some point if the butane's gonna clog it up. Now I'm reaching into my pocket here. Actually, I didn't take it. I thought I had it. I bought a lighter in Cuba. I actually bought a lighter and butane for like $10, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I left the butane down there, right? And because I didn't know what kind of butane it was, right? But I wasn't gonna get it back anyway. But that would be butane, like which I'm not familiar with. I never saw the brand. I wouldn't mess with it. I wouldn't skimp when it comes to butane.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I won't call out specific manufacturers, but yeah, butane's important. I do have to say that we'll run another segment on this, Will. We're going off a little tangent, but I got these lighters on Amazon from a recommendation from a friend of mine, and they're $10 each. I don't know how well you can see that on the camera, but it's a single flame too. Single flame. It's a big single flame. They're $10 each. I bought 3 for $29.95, and these have been done pretty well actually since I filled them.
I've seen that lighter.
It's like a no-name brand, right?
Yeah.
And you think about the number of lighters that we have here in the studio, but I needed lighters with a big reservoir that lasted a long time, that I could afford enough of them to keep like one in every room here in the studio and offices. And after a week or so or more, it's been going really well. I haven't had to refill them since I got them like a week and a half ago. I haven't had to refill them. And I bled them all and filled them up with whatever butane I had available, and they've been doing really well, which is kind of interesting. But the kind of butane the use stock absolutely does matter. And the big difference is what we're getting at is some butanes, it's an efficiency rating. It's kind of like gasoline in a car, right? Like it's the same, almost exact same thing as the octane, right? And the higher octane burns more efficiently. Now, some people will say that's hearsay. You talk to a chemistry professor or anyone involved with chemistry, and they're like, no, it's science. Like, it actually burns more efficiently. Butane, to me, is the same thing, and I've noticed that with I think it having a higher-end lighter, it, like, kind of exacerbates the problem. Like, if you use a cheap fluid in a higher-end lighter, maybe you'll do a little better, maybe not. I don't know. I feel like some of your cheaper ones will do worse in efficiency, and it depends on how you tune them. But when you do a road trip, well, I think it's important to stock the right fluid because you're going to be going through a lot of fluid.
Yeah, and especially if someone wants to borrow your fluid,
Borrow your lighter, borrow your, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
if someone else runs out and everyone's borrowing your lighter, then it's going to burn through fluid so much more quickly. So I think it's a good point.
Yep, totally agree.
Especially in the car when you can't, like, go next door and there's only a limited amount of people. There's only a limited amount of resources when you're traveling in the car.
Yeah.
And you don't want to break out matches in the car.
Yeah. No, you don't want to break up matches either.
For a lot of reasons, you don't want to break up matches in the car.
We've done some driving segments. Yeah, you don't want to. You really don't want to get fixed in the car either.
No. Nope.
Believe it or not, I've had issues with them too, especially if you're the one driving. But
fire is a real thing.
Fire is a real thing. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing in terms of travel, you do want to make sure you have lighters and cutters. I know that sounds. I've been on so many of these trips, right? And I've had this 5 of us, and 4 to 5 don't take the lighter and cutter.
Well, because everyone thinks everyone else is bringing their lighter and cutter.
Right. Or I'm going to a cigar store. I don't need one, right?
Yeah, no.
Now, there are some of these cigar stores, you go to them, and I'm not knocking anyone in particular, but everyone knows there's ones out there where basically the lighters and cutters are under lock and key.
And I don't fault the shop for that because
I don't either because they walk.
But in what you realize after talking to retailers for so many years, like we have, Will, it's not because people have malicious intent. Is most of the time it's just accidental. Like they use a lighter and they just instinctively put it in their pocket and they forget about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure there's the malicious intent too. Don't get me wrong.
I've actually been with people. There was one guy. We were on a road trip, and we were. Long story short, and I'll spill the name. It was Mark Boley from Defiant Whiskey, right? He actually walked off with someone's really good lighter, but he did get it back to them. He right away. So I mean, this was a really good one, and he felt horrible. The guy was really good about it when he called back up the store, and he mailed it back and everything.
Well, and Crook's bringing up a good point in the chat too. If you walk away with one accidentally, you should bring it back. And if you don't, then it's not an accident. Then you've actually stolen it, right?
You've stolen it, yeah, absolutely. And it's like and you know what? I'll say this: even if it's a $5 lighter, right? Call the store. It's just you don't want to be the guy. That's not a way to get a free lighter.
Well, and don't bring your DuPont lighter on one of these trips. I think is really what we're saying too, right? Because it's gonna, and whether it's by accident or not, like. I don't know. I guess someone does have. If someone's taking your DuPont lighter, it's malicious intent, right? But
that is, yeah.
I think also too, like I've lost lighters, and I know Todd has lost. Like we've gotten lighters mixed up because, like Todd next door is the manager of Havana Cigar Club. But we both of us own like 3 of those $5-10 lighters,
right?
And we'll put one in our pocket, and we're like, "Was that yours or was that mine?" And then we're like. Nah, whatever. I'll just go buy another one. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So the cheaper ones are the ones you want to use on that trip.
Right. I mean, I use like this Vector one, which is.
That's exactly the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Will.
Yeah.
Those are like 10. If you can switch to Will and hold that up, that would be my choice, right? Triple flame. It doesn't hold a ton of fluid, but it holds enough to get you through an event, and it's $10, and they're pretty reliable. The button tends to fall off of them after a lot of use, but. Yeah, they're not bad.
I actually brought these to the wedding, my daughter's wedding. They were good price, and they're good lighters. I mean, I had them on the cigar table at the wedding, and none of them walked off. So
that's good.
Yeah. The other thing, just kind of, we were talking about the road trip. Another thing is, this is one of those rules I get. But in a road trip, I think it's given. Smoke the cigars you're going to the cigar shop for. I mean, if you're going to smoke at the shop, smoke the cigars that are at that shop.
Well, that's why you're going.
That's why you're going. If you want, look, I know some people want to like, I'll smoke this on a clean palate. Honestly, I'll buy 2 cigars then.
Right.
Or what I'll do is I'll buy one, I'll smoke it if I really like it. Then I'll go back and buy the second one. But again, it's kind of the rule of thumb. It's you don't take another meal into a restaurant.
Yeah.
So you kind of you don't take someone else's food in it. Kind of respect the place there, so to speak.
Well, and that's the thing too. I mean, like budget. Yeah. You know what I mean? When you go into the cigar store, have some budget to buy some cigars.
Yeah, I would say if you're going to take a cigar trip and you don't have the budget, maybe it's not time to take the cigar trip.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, and then look at the hours of the store. Finally, that's a big problem. When they open, when they close, time. If you're gonna go to multiple shops in a day, time. Go to ones where they open. I know when we do, another place we've done is Charleston, our group, and we have a very set pattern because we know one place that opens really early and we know one place that's open really late. Yeah. So we kind of go through.
But that's a great point, and I noticed that when I travel, Will, cigar stores and or lounges, and when you travel, sometimes you're not sure whether it's a store and or a lounge,
yep.
And whether or not they serve, whether or not you can smoke in the place to begin with, which is most shops, but then whether or not they can serve drinks and whether or not they can serve alcoholic drinks and whether or not they can serve food or any combination of the above, depending on their state and local ordinances in laws, that's going to govern their time. And what ends up happening is every cigar place, regardless if it's a store or a lounge or a restaurant or whatever, is going to have different hours to accommodate that. So they're all different. And I run into that problem, like I'll travel and I'll be like, oh, great, there's a cigar store there, but they close at like 6 o'clock. And if you're traveling for business, like you can't get there before 6 o'clock. So similar when you're doing a cigar trip is to make sure you know the hours.
And you mentioned actually the liquor piece, and this was another thing I want to talk about. So some places will let you bring in your own liquor.
That's true.
Right? And they can't sell it.
But that's not the cigar store being jerks.
Right.
That's typically either a state or local city or otherwise town law that they can't allow that. I know in Havana Cigar Club, I'm like, so I get, when they first open, I'm like, so I get this locker. I'm like, can I put like a bottle of scotch in my locker? And they're like, it's not our rule. Like, we can't let you serve yourself, which means you can't bring in your own. They're like, since we have a license to serve, it means patrons can't bring in their own stuff. And that could also speak to the lounge as well. I mean, if they are serving liquor, they're not going to let you bring in, your own. So that's, it's, you got to pay attention to those things.
Actually, there was one place, and it was in North Carolina, where I asked the question about it, and I think it was North Carolina, but regardless, and he said, yes, you can bring your own liquor. However, you have to become a member.
Right.
I'm like, oh shoot. He goes, well, the membership's only $1. He goes, and I'm not trying to take your $1 from you. He goes, if you're really upset about paying the $1, I'll give you the $1 back in cigars. He goes, but legally, I have to sell you this. I have to take a membership. And oh, by the way, you'll have the membership for a year if you ever come back. So he literally charged me $1 to do that. And so it was just he had to do that. And that turned out it was again he got the alcohol, the ABC board here, the alcohol folks came in and they dinged him. So he had to do that.
Right.
Yep.
No, it's a good point. All right. So let's transition into
Unbanded.
Unbanded. I'm so glad the Unbanded's back, Will.
Yeah, so the Unbanded is now under the management of Mr. Timothy Cooper, my oldest son, who's now entered the cigar business. And I basically entrusted him. He's now working retail, and I basically entrusted him to come up with some unbanded cigars.
I love how you're like, my son's getting involved in the cigar industry, so let's give him the most tedious task that there ever could be associated with cigars.
Oh my goodness!
It's not like anyone. We've done I mean, since we first started the show, we've done unbandeds, and before we started the show, I used to listen to Dogwatch Cigar Radio, and I know they would do unbandeds. And what I think a lot of people don't realize is just like how much work and how tedious it is to manage the unbandeds. And props to Keith. I know he's probably still in the other room listening. Keith did a fantastic job with the unbanded, and he really did.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to burden any one person longer than we had to with that. So when you said I want to get my son to do them, I'm like, yeah, that's great. Because it's very tedious you have to purchase the cigars in secrecy. And so you have to have some discretion as to which cigars you're going to choose. You have to take into account sponsors with that. I mean, if you're going to include sponsors or not.
Oh, shoot, I didn't tell him that. But
size, like sizes, and then you have to number them and label them and take the bands off and put new bands on them and then create envelopes and make sure all of that matches up. And it's very tedious.
Yeah, when he realized how much work it was.
Yes.
He goes, this is just I said, yeah. I said, but how else would you? I go, if you have ways to improve the process. He goes, well, I don't know.
Yeah, like how else would you do it, right? Like it's just tedious. There's no getting around it.
And like I said, I could see him in 3 or 4 months basically punting this one. So you're right. It's a lot of work. Keith's gonna break up.
This sucks.
But it's also helping him learn a bit too.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is not a cigar. Yeah, he's learning cigars. He knows retail very well, but the cigar piece is newer to him.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm curious what we have in our envelopes because
so I looked at the cigar and I think I know what it is, but it didn't taste like anything that cigar was like.
That's interesting. So this was a pretty large ring gauge
square press.
Square press, thank you. It wasn't a full box press, but it definitely had a press to it.
Yeah.
This was like a Toro-ish.
Toro-ish. It was 6 inches long. I want to say it was like 52.
It was a little higher on the ring gauge.
You think it was a little higher?
Yeah, it was at least a 52. It felt big on the ring gauge.
Okay. Yeah, box presses again. Yeah, they'll throw me off a bit.
Yeah, the box press does kind of. I think if it was a full, like a regular Parejo, like a round cigar, it might have came into like a 54. Could be. I don't know. I felt like it was a pretty big ring gauge.
If it's a 54, then maybe my guess may be right. But that was kind of.
Well, I thought it was a size that, like, when I picked it up, I'm like, I don't ever remember smoking anything this size, to be honest with you. And maybe I smoked like different lengthwise sizes of this cigar, but I haven't smoked this particular size because it was pretty memorable in terms of, like, there's not a whole lot of square pressed Toro size cigars that we've reviewed, Will.
With a covered foot.
With a covered foot, thank you very much. It was a covered foot on it.
Right. So yeah, and
quality-wise, I thought burn, draw, construction, appearance, and even like smoking experience and flavor and taste and everything. Like it was a quality cigar. Like
I gave it a box split. I gave it
a 5-er. And I was pretty close to box split because I tell you what, one thing that got me, the sweetness on this cigar was off the charts.
It was sweet. Was it smooth, your cigar?
Yeah, I found it was very smooth too.
Because when I first smoked this cigar, it had sweetness, but it was a much rougher smoke.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you smoked this one before?
I'm guessing I smoked this one before.
Okay.
If it's what I think the guess is, and again, he has not told me, nor have I looked at the envelope.
So yeah, I mean, I lit it up. I started now I had to relight it a couple times, but I think that was environment. Again, you shipped these last week.
Yeah,
my humidors I know have been running a little high in humidity lately because it has been somewhat humid here, and my new thermostats are not. We still need to program our thermostats. So when I came into the office this morning, it was like 80 degrees in my office.
Yep.
So, and it's been really high humidity. So I kind of took that into account when I smoked it, Will. And I did have to relight it a couple times. But it never turned harsh on me. Like, this was a smooth smoking.
No, it was smooth.
And
right
it was very
end.
sweet. That's the thing I take away from it. And there's not too many unbanded cigars we can say, wow, got a lot of sweetness from it. Like, this was one I got a lot of sweetness from.
Yeah.
Really no spice and pepper, just smooth and sweet.
Right. Yeah, I did a little more spice in the last third, but it never got overly. It never got overly spicy. It had like I said, it has smoothness to it. That's why the cigar. I was thinking immediately. I said, I don't know if it could be that because I don't remember that cigar being kind of a smooth. I do remember some sweetness. But
what did you think it was?
The Henry Clay stalk cut.
Interesting.
Now, because the Toro doesn't have the pigtail, the other sizes do.
Mm-hmm.
That was why I looked at between the square press and the covered foot and that wrapper. You know, it looked like the Connecticut broadleaf wrapper on it. But I don't remember it that smooth. I always remember that being a rougher cigar.
It didn't make a lot of change-ups, but the performance on this cigar, it reminded me of a Rocky Patel smoke for whatever reason. Like just a solid performer for me. Not a lot of change-ups, but just delivering in certain areas like smoothness and sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
For that reason, I'm like, seems like a Rocky Patel cigar. Like, it seems to me like a really solid offering from Rocky Patel that can produce a high volume of them and have it deliver that awesome smoking experience and deliver it in a couple of those areas. And smoothness and sweetness being the ones that this one performed in. And it kind of felt Nicaraguan to me, but, when it turns into a blend, it's so hard to tell.
It definitely felt Nicaraguan with some of the earthiness and some of the sweet coffee notes I got in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Should we open up our envelopes?
Let's open them up.
Well, we have the same envelope, so
hopefully he got them. Hopefully there's not two different bands in here.
That'd be pretty funny. It's definitely a test. There is a band in here and nothing more. Hopefully we know more about the cigar. Oh, wow, Will. You were right on, dude. You were right on. This is a Henry Clay stalk cut.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see what else it says on the cigar.
The stalk cut.
Yep.
I did not look at this. I'm being honest. Again, I just went by what I knew on that one.
I have not smoked a Henry Clay stalk cut.
And here's the thing. That cigar changed up a lot since if I did review this back in June. I could tell you that cigar is a different cigar.
Interesting.
A lot of people were praising this cigar, and I thought it was good, but I didn't. But that's why I had it in the box split area.
That's awesome.
So
who does Henry Clay, Will, just for our listeners?
Altadis.
So Henry Clay came on my radar when Pete Johnson did a collaboration, but this is the Altadis Henry Clay stalk cut, nothing to do with Pete Johnson cigar.
Yeah, this is a kind of, from what I understood, this is kind of an offshoot of that. I actually think this was the better cigar.
I agree.
Yeah.
So this is a newer Henry Clay offering.
Yeah, this is an ongoing one right now.
I like it.
I liked it. I thought it was good.
And you had a box split, and I had a 5-er, so we were pretty close in our.
Close on it, yeah. I mean, I think we both had the same experience with it too.
Yeah, like I would smoke more of these, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would let them dry out a little. Again.
Broadleaf.
It's broadleaf.
Bro,
Okay.
if you gotta let it dry out, it makes all the sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
No, did yours do that too, Will, or?
No, I did not have any. In fact, the performance was excellent on that.
Interesting.
Cigar. Now mine didn't transport either. So
mine probably picked up a little. It picked up some moisture on the way. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, his was in the humidor, so it was under optimum conditions. So yeah.
Good job, Timmy.
Good job, Timmy. You get and I did not peek at this, so because I'm usually not that good at that. But again, when I looked at it, I mean, again, I don't know a lot of square presses with the covered foot, and that was the only one I see. Rocky did come to my mind, Paul. I couldn't think of a Rocky square press with a covered foot.
Yeah, no, yeah, and that's interesting that we both said Rocky.
Yep.
Well, cool. Next up on the Stogie Geek Show is our fabulous interview with Mel from Bombay Tobacco. We talk about when his new releases. Stay tuned for this one. You're not going to want to miss it. We talk about this blend, and you're going to want to pay attention and probably buy some after you listen to this next segment.